before I got an iPhone 10, I used to have an iPhone 7. I was perfectly fine with that phone, and I never got a scratch on it. I'd probably still have that phone now if I didn't lose it. I always had the Find My iPhone feature enabled, however, just in case if I did lose it, I'd be able to track it. To this day, I still don't remember how or where I lost the phone. All I remember is I came home one day, quickly realized I didn't have my phone on me, and had a mini heart attack.
You lose that phone,
I searched the whole house, my car, the pathway up to the house. I even drove back to all the locations I was in that night to look for it, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Then I remembered I could sign into my iCloud account from my laptop and track my iPhone using the Find My iPhone setting. So I drove home and did just that. Apparently my phone was coming up somewhere in the woods at the end of the village. None of my siblings were home at the time. They were all away at school, so I couldn't ask any of them to come with me. So it looked like I was heading out alone. My dad didn't want me to come because he had work early the next morning, but he let me take his phone with me to track my phone. It was a quick 5 to 10 minute drive to the woods. I parked on the grass on the side of the road. It seemed like I was maybe a minute walk north away. Obviously I brought my flashlight expecting to be following the trail into the woods. Now that I stood there though, the idea of going in there was a lot less appealing. In fact, the whole situation seemed more suspicious, such as why whoever found my phone would be in the middle of the dark woods at 10 o'clock. I definitely shouldn't have come alone, but at this point I didn't see much more of a choice than following the trail. The flashlight I had sucked. It barely lit up the trail 5 feet in front of me. Eventually it seemed like I was right on the mark of the location for my phone. I did a full 360, examining my surroundings, but seeing nothing but darkness and trees. I started yelling for somebody to come out. It was the first time I heard my own voice in an hour, and it came out weak and unintimidating. When I called out, I heard a whispering come from beyond a few trees, in the east direction on my map.
Who's that behind you?
I yelled out again.
Attention to is what I'm trying to figure out.
I started sending texts with my dad's phone to my phone, and I heard the dings coming from the same direction as the whispering. I looked in that direction and saw the glow was so bright that it lit up the figures of 2, maybe 3 men standing behind a line of trees.
Oh yeah, don't skedaddle.
At that exact moment,
jelly bean
I had a
off the dump
realization in my head that I was in way over my head being in those woods alone. And that my iPhone
either I'm
was in no
jelly
way worth
beaning
risking my
or I'm
life.
dipping. That's time
I turned the
to
flashlight off and ran back down the trail as fast as I could, back to my car. By the time I got back, my phone could no longer be located on the Find My iPhone app, meaning it was either broken, disconnected, or turned off. I have checked a few times since then if the phone comes up on the map. It never has been. I think I made the right choice running away. I don't think any possession would be worth approaching a group of people like that in the woods.
They probably seen that boy and was like, "Got one, coach? You heard me?" Throw it up.
I'm 21 years old now. This happened to my uncle when I was around 9 years old. My uncle was living in our house and was staying in our vacant guest room up on the 2nd floor. He's my dad's cousin, so he was really close to our family. My uncle was a morning person. He would always get up at around 4 a.m., drink coffee, and run morning errands around the house. He also told us that he could see and feel ghosts because he has a third eye. To give you a little background on our house, it was the very first house that was built on our street. We could sometimes feel something moving around our house, especially at night, but we never really paid attention to it. One morning, my uncle woke up at his usual time, around 4 a.m. He left his room, which was right beside the staircase, saw my older sister, who was 17 years old at that time, going up the stairs with a cup of coffee in her hand. The weird thing was, he said that my sister was looking down and not showing her face the whole time. He greeted her with, "Good morning, and why are you up so early?" He said my sister just kept walking up while looking down and ignoring him. My uncle felt awkward as my sister just walked past him. He ignored it, thinking my sister was in a really bad mood. He thought she probably stayed up late studying or something. My uncle went down to grab a cup of coffee when he saw my mother in the living room. ironing some clothes. My uncle was confused about why my mother was up at 4 a.m. and ironing clothes. He tried to talk to her and asked the same thing he asked my sister. Why are you up so early? He noticed that my mother was wearing the same clothes from the night before she went to bed, so he knew it was her. To his surprise, my mother ignored him. My mother never ignored anyone, which is why he found it strange. My mother was just looking down as she kept ironing. That's when my uncle knew something was off. He knew something was very wrong here. He rushed back upstairs to his room, locked the door, turned off the lights, and tried to go back to sleep. He tried to forget about it and woke up again a few hours later. It was around 10 a.m. in the morning when he talked to my mother and my sister about what happened. They said they were asleep the whole night, and they don't recall waking up at 4 a.m. My uncle was so shocked about what he had just experienced. Someone was copying my mother and sister earlier that morning. I was so scared at that time. I became so paranoid that I might feel or see something odd in our house, but I tried not to think about it too much. The night after that situation, my uncle woke up at around 3 a.m. He felt something at the end of his bed, and he saw a woman with long hair sitting there.
Jelly bean.
My uncle froze for a while. He didn't know what to do. He was trembling when he said, "Go away!" My uncle hid under his blankets.
Man,
after a few minutes, which felt like hours, he looked at the same spot where he saw the woman, and she was gone.
She behind you, son.
My uncle slept with the lights on that night. After that experience,
there wouldn't have been no sleep.
He thankfully didn't experience anything like it.
Look at that. Yeah, get it.